everyone, welcome to another video interview. I'm Paula Gilbert, the editor of Connecting Africa, and we're here at MWC Africa in Kigali, Rwanda. And joining me is Matt Granryd, who is the Director General of the GSMA. It's so nice to have you.
Thank you very much, Paula. It's great to be here.
Yes, so this time of year we always look forward to all of the reports that the GSMA is putting out. The main report on the mobile economy in Africa. What are some of the key takeaways for this year's report?
Maybe one of the biggest items is the investment that we are forecasted to do. So we are forecasted to do $75 billion from now to 2030. Huge investment. And that's driven by a couple of different things. One is the increased usage from consumers, you and I. Africa has the biggest growth rate that we see of all regions in the world. We believe it's going to quadruple, so 4 times from now to 2028 actually. So even quicker than that. And we all know that when we do our forecast, we sort of try to do it linear. And we know with an exponential take-up like this, it can be many times more than that. So we need to be prepared to serve our customers, hence that big number of 75 billion. I think that's arguably one of the biggest numbers. Another number is, of course, that we are today, 480 million subscribers or so in Africa. We believe that will grow to 700 million by 2030. So substantial growth of number, but also the usage per individual will grow quite dramatically.
Okay, and then we know that Sub-Saharan Africa still remains a region with the largest coverage gaps and usage gaps, right? So what kind of practical solutions you think telcos can implement, telcos and other industries actually, to improve this in 2024?
Good, you actually said it right. I need to compliment you because there is 2 gaps. One is the coverage gap and the other is the usage gap. The coverage gap is very small compared to the usage gap, which is big. So the coverage gap in Africa has been reduced because we have built out more networks, and now only 15% remains. So 15% of the Africans cannot connect, even if they wanted to, because there is no mobile broadband network. Unfortunately, that is for poor communities, and women are mostly affected. So that's one issue that we need to address. The usage gap, which is far much bigger, that's 58% or almost 60%. People living beneath the mobile broadband, but they choose not to, they cannot connect of various reasons. The biggest issue is affordability, have no money for buying a mobile handset. It's the handset. And there we're working with governments and regulators to find a smarter way of taxing mobile equipment and predominantly handsets. This is a scale game. The more scale we get, the cheaper the products will become. So finding a very cheap local domestic handset, we don't think is the way forward. Having the big brands, but taxing them correctly is number 1. Number 2 is digital skills. You know, I might have the money, but I don't know how to use this thing. And we from GSMA, we have developed tools for that. It's called MIST. MTN has launched it in many countries. Airtel has launched it. It's a very simple tool to educate people of how to get online. The third one, which I think is the biggest, and that's that there's the lack of local relevant content in my own language. Hence, I don't really feel the urge of getting there. We're working there with innovation hubs. Because we are a strong believer that the applications needs to be developed locally, and if they're developed locally, you will not only get the relevant content, the things that really matter, but you will also create work opportunities for that application. So creating entrepreneurs locally is key. And then fourthly, which is maybe the most complex, and that's the safety concerns. You know, I might have money, I might know how this thing works, and I find some relevant content there, but I just don't want my family to use it because I've heard it's all bad things happening on the internet. And that is something we need to take serious. The more dependent we become as a society on digital infrastructure, and we are becoming very quickly very dependent, we need to understand the vulnerability of our systems as well. So we're working a lot with various techniques to try to mitigate as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, because it's all about getting that usage gap.
It's all back to the usage gap, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
then what do you think, this morning the keynote was all about the digitalization of everything,
Yeah.
right? So I'm just interested in your take on that and how the industry is embracing it and what role the GSMA plays in that.
Well, we from the GSMA, we're sort of the spokesperson for the industry. All mobile operators are members, including a big chunk of ICT and other companies. Events like this, I'm not sure about Kigali, but if you take Barcelona or Las Vegas, where we were in the US, or Shanghai for that matter, it's less than 50% of participants that come from the mobile industry. The rest comes from other industries, aviation, automotive, fintech. And I think that's just a proof point of how important technology, mobile technology, is in other industries' business. And they come to understand and learn how can we actually adopt this new technology into my own business and make more money. So from a GSMA perspective, we convene, we try to make sure that whatever we do as an industry has the ability to scale. So we're not fond of small individual things because they never scale. We want to have standards, or if not standards, at least some specification that is universal. We're working with Open Gateway, which is a roaming application, roaming capabilities of APIs or applications on our 5G networks, targeting business-to-business segments. We're working with Fair Share to try to bridge the investment gap, as we spoke about earlier, that the big players need to contribute as well. So I think we try to find ways where we can convene the industry, come up with a scalable solution, and working with governments, with the World Bank, with the United Nations, and with other industries or NGOs to try to advance the digital agenda.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a bit about 5G and what kind of role do you think it's playing at the moment in Africa, you know, comparing it to the growth of 4G and 3G, and whether you think we'll ever see the end of 2G?
Many questions in one.
Yes.
I think, yes, you will see maybe the end of 3G before the end of 2G. 2G is sort of a base, and there's a lot of M2M applications there, so that might be more tricky. 4G is growing, as you said, and I think globally it's still growing. Maybe this year is the tipping point globally. In Africa, it's certainly growing. And 5G, we believe we just passed 1 billion 5G subscribers beginning of this year, and we will have 1.5 at least by the end of this year. So it is definitely taking off. I think 5G should be viewed in, you know, better services that we can provide to you at the cheaper cost. But it is predominantly for business to business. I mean, I jokingly say that, you know, on my 4G phone, I can download a movie, an HD movie from Netflix, takes me 45 seconds. I can do the same thing on 5G, it takes me 5 seconds. Wow. You know, it's
but
not
why?
Why exactly? It's not that big of a difference. But if you're a gamer, the reduction in latency certainly helps. And the more we build out standalone 5G, latency will come down even further. But it is the ability that the networks have to address business to business, the network slicing capabilities, the ability for us to predict the capacity that is dedicated for you as a campus or as a factory, which is very, very appealing. So I think 5G will take a bit longer time to figure out exactly what type of business cases will fly. 4G, you and I adopted that like so. 5G will take a little bit longer for business to business. However, on the consumer side, 5G has taken off quicker than any other technology, which might be surprising, but that's the case.
Yeah, that is
surprising. In Africa, I believe it's 16 different countries that have launched 5G, and that is going to grow quite quickly. You know, not big scale, but again, this is not a race. This is, you launch 5G when you feel that the market is ready, the consumers, the businesses are willing to have it.
Yeah, and then what's your view on generative AI and how that's impacting the telecom sector?
Well, let's see. We don't really know. I know that AI, we have worked with AI quite some time, and machine learning techniques in customer services or cell planning, routing of traffic, etc. So AI for us is not new. Generative AI, that's a bit new. So let's see, but I'm pretty convinced it will have a quite dramatic effect on us. Maybe it's a little bit overhyped right now. It will calm down, but it will certainly build its momentum behind the scenes for quite some time. But I don't think we need to be concerned about that. I think technology, evolution, revolutions are always going to happen. You can't push the rope backwards. So we need to find ways of dealing with it as humans and adapt slowly. Ultimately, it will benefit us in some form or fashion. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah. And then I know your work for the Broadband Commission for Sustainable Development, a lot of it has to do with the gender divide.
Yeah.
Right. So I wanted to just ask you about that. Where kind of are we at the moment? I know it's something that the GSMA looks at quite closely also and has a report on.
Yeah.
And how do we improve access to women on the continent? I know it's a difficult question.
No, but it's also very important because I talked about the coverage gap and the usage gap, and it's unfortunately so that the poorer people and women are disproportionately affected of this. And we measure the gender equality, that's why we have this SDG number 5, gender equality, and we're quite engaged in that. And we have done great progress with reducing the gap between men and women's access to mobile internet. Unfortunately, after the pandemic, it has stalled and somewhat got worse again. Yeah. So we need to double down on that. And again, this is not a quick fix. This is a multitude of different activities we need to do. Safety concerns. Mobile money, I think, is a great application to get more people naturally online. Handset affordability, to make sure that people can actually have not only the man in the household, but everyone in the household, the women as well. So I think there is a mixture of recipes that we need to work with. The biggest thing is to work together. And you can see that in so many different angles of the world today, that it takes, before it took 2 people to tango, now it takes 3. It takes 3 or more to do business these days. You and I need to partner up to agree on something to sell to that third person. The same thing here, to bridge the usage gap, it is 3 or more to do this together. Bridging the coverage gap, that's just me. I just need to build more coverage, easy. But the usage gap is more complex. The gender equality issue is more complex, and we need to work with that.
All right, well, thanks so much. I think we're going to have to leave it there, but thanks very much to the GSMA's Director General, Matt Granryd.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.